My name is Melanie Carter, and I'm 42 years old, the founder and CEO of Blue Horizon Systems, a cybersecurity firm I built from the ground up over the past decade. After years of sleepless nights and hard-won victories, I was genuinely looking forward to attending my younger brother Tyler's wedding in Savannah, Georgia. Despite our distant relationship, I believed this could be a turning point, a fresh start for our fractured family. What I didn't expect was that a $25 million partnership deal I had brokered just weeks prior, coincidentally with the company owned by Tyler's soon-to-be father-in-law, would become the spark that set off a very public family reckoning. And it all started when I saw the seating chart. What would you do if your own family decided you didn't matter? I was about to show them just how unforgettable I could be. Before I get into the full story, drop your city in the comments. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. And if you've ever had to fight to be seen, hit that like button and subscribe. Now, let me take you back. Growing up in Asheville, North Carolina, Tyler and I were only 3 years apart. We were inseparable as kids, climbing trees in the Smoky Mountains, biking around the neighborhood until the streetlights came on. Our mom, Linda, packed us sandwiches for hikes, and our dad, Gerald, taught us how to fix car engines in the garage every Saturday morning. But things changed once high school hit. Tyler became the basketball star. I joined the robotics club. Our parents were courtside at every game, wearing school colors and shouting Tyler's name. As for me, my state science fair award was met with a distracted, "That's nice, sweetie. Now help me set the table." Sports build resilience, Dad would say, grinning proudly at Tyler. All that tech stuff is just a phase, Melanie. But it wasn't a phase. I earned a full ride to Georgia Tech, while Tyler scraped through a local college with help from Dad's connections. During holidays, the conversations always circled back to Tyler's coaching gigs or his latest side hustle. My early work at a cybersecurity startup? Mostly ignored. At 32, I risked it all. I emptied my savings, took out a loan, and launched Blue Horizon Systems from my tiny studio apartment in Atlanta. For 2 years, I worked out of my kitchen, slept on a futon, and lived on canned soup. When I called home, my mother would sigh and say, "You don't have to prove anything. There's always a place for you at your father's firm." But they never asked about my vision. Never offered a dime. They didn't believe in me. Until the wedding. Until the seating chart. Until I reminded them exactly what happens when you underestimate a woman who builds her own empire. I could succeed on my own terms. Then came the breakthrough. Blue Horizon Systems developed a groundbreaking logistics security platform that streamlined global supply chains for large enterprises. Suddenly, doors opened. I was hiring staff, moving into a real office space in Midtown Atlanta, and receiving calls from investors who had once ghosted my outreach emails. It was during this rise that my brother Tyler met Sabrina Langford at a charity tennis tournament. Sabrina was the only daughter of Charles Langford, the billionaire founder of Langford Global Properties, a massive real estate conglomerate with holdings across the U.S. Their relationship was fast, flashy, and tailor-made for magazine covers, weekend escapes to Lake Como, matching designer luggage, sunset proposals in Santorini. My parents were euphoric. "Charles is taking a real interest in Tyler," my mom gushed during one of our awkward Sunday calls. "He's introducing him to his entire executive circle. This could transform Powell Industries." The irony wasn't lost on me. My company's rapid ascent was treated like a hobby that had gotten lucky. Meanwhile, Tyler's relationship, based on brunches and beach trips, was framed as a strategic leap for the family legacy. 6 months in, Tyler and Sabrina announced their engagement. The Carters and Langfords became socially inseparable. Suddenly my parents were hosting wine tastings and attending galas they once mocked. Completely unrelated to any of that, Langford Global had been on the hunt for a cybersecurity partner to address growing vulnerabilities in their supply chain systems. Their director of operations, Monica Green, happened to attend a logistics tech summit in Denver, where I delivered the keynote demo. She reached out a week later, unaware of any family connection, and after 3 months of intense evaluations and negotiations, Blue Horizon signed a $25 million contract with Langford Global. It was the biggest deal in our history. During our next family call, I casually mentioned the contract, thinking maybe they'd finally recognize what I'd built. "That's nice, dear," my mother said, then quickly added, "Did you get the invitation to Tyler and Sabrina's engagement party? It's at the Langford estate. Charles has a private vineyard now." 2 weeks later, at the party, I finally met Charles Langford. He was tall, sharp, and radiated command. "So you're the genius behind Blue Horizon," he said as he shook my hand. "Your platform impressed our entire IT team. Monica says your software is going to save us millions." "Thank you, Mr. Langford. We're excited to be working with you. Please call me Charles. We should have dinner soon. I want to hear your take on AI and commercial logistics." Before I could answer, my mother appeared beside me, startled. "You two know each other?" she asked. "Just met," I replied. Charles paused, puzzled. "Wait, Carter. Are you Tyler's sister? He never said anything about you running Blue Horizon." An awkward silence followed. My mother gave a tight laugh. "Oh, Melanie's always been our little computer genius," she said, as if I'd just won a spelling bee. "Tyler's more focused on the real estate development side, like his father," my mother finished, smiling as if she hadn't just brushed me aside. Charles Langford looked momentarily puzzled, but quickly composed himself. "Well, apparently brilliance runs in the Carter family, just in different directions. What a fascinating coincidence." Except it wasn't a coincidence. My brother Tyler hadn't mentioned me or my company to his future father-in-law on purpose. My achievements didn't fit the image he'd constructed. Tyler, the golden son, the rising star, the one taking the family business global. I didn't belong in that story. Still, I held on to a shred of hope. Maybe this wedding would be the turning point. Maybe the undeniable impact of the Langford contract would finally earn me the respect I had spent over a decade building. I spent weeks choosing the right dress, a sleek navy sheath that struck the perfect balance between power and poise. I even invited Marcus Chin, a venture capitalist I'd been seeing for 3 months, to come as my date. "Are you sure you want me there?" Marcus asked over Thai food the week before the wedding. "From everything you've told me, it sounds like it might be stressful." "That's exactly why I want you there," I said honestly. "Having someone beside me who sees me for who I really am will help keep me grounded." The night before the wedding, I called Tyler. I wanted to reach out, maybe reconnect before the whirlwind of events. "Hey," I said when he picked up, sounding rushed. "Just wanted to say I'm really happy for you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow." "Thanks, Mel," he said. "It's crazy here. Sabrina's got the planner on speed dial, and Charles keeps adding guests like we're hosting the Met Gala. Anything I can help with?" "Nah, it's covered." He paused. "Listen, about the seating arrangements." "Yes." We've had to make some last-minute changes. But it's all sorted now. See you tomorrow, okay?" As I hung up, a knot tightened in my stomach. But I brushed it off. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow I would be seen. The Langford estate sprawled across acres of sculpted gardens with sweeping views of the Blue Ridge foothills. Luxury cars lined the cobblestone drive. Marcus gave a low whistle as we pulled up in my Tesla. "You didn't mention it was this lavish." "I didn't know," I said. First time seeing it myself. A valet opened my door with a crisp, "Welcome to the Langford Carter wedding, ma'am." The main house was an elegant colonial revival with towering white columns and perfectly manicured hedges. A string quartet played near a marble fountain as guests mingled with flutes of champagne. White orchids were tucked into every arrangement, the air fragrant with salt and roses. "Melanie." My mother's voice cut through the crowd. She swept toward me in a rose gold gown she'd gushed about during 3 separate calls. "You're here. And this is..." "Mom, this is Marcus." "Marcus Chin." "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Carter," Marcus said warmly, extending his hand. "Thank you," she replied, eyes quickly scanning him. Then, turning to me, "Your father is at the bar with Charles and some of the investors. You should come say hello." She didn't wait for my answer. "Your father is by the bar with Charles and some of the investors. You should come say hello," she added breezily, before turning and expecting us to follow. "She seems nice," Marcus whispered, his tone lightly teasing. "Just wait," I murmured. My father stood in a circle of sharply dressed men, laughing at something Charles Langford had just said. The moment he saw me, his smile faltered, just briefly before he recovered. "There's my girl," he said, offering a one-armed hug. "And who's this young man?" After I introduced Marcus again, I turned to Charles, who greeted me with far more enthusiasm than my father had. "Melanie, the woman of the hour," Charles beamed. "I was just telling these gentlemen how your platform is transforming our entire supply chain. 3 months in and already the ROI is undeniable." The other men turned to me with new interest. "You're the brains behind the Blue Horizon system?" asked a silver-haired gentleman with a southern drawl. Charles hasn't stopped praising it. Says it's saving him millions in logistics alone. Before I could respond, my father cleared his throat and cut in. "Well, Melanie always had a talent for computers," he said casually. "Tyler's actually the one who introduced her to Charles, didn't you know? Always looking out for his sister." The life floated between us like a dense fog. Charles Langford's eyebrows lifted slightly, but he said nothing to correct the record. Actually, I started to clarify, but I was interrupted by the arrival of the bride herself. Sabrina Langford glided toward us in a wave of white silk and diamond accents, her hair swept into a flawless updo sparkling with pins that caught the sun. "Melanie, you made it," she exclaimed, air-kissing both my cheeks. "And navy blue, how practical." Her eyes drifted over my meticulously chosen dress with a polite, almost imperceptible smirk. "Though I thought I mentioned the family was doing pastels for the photos?" "You didn't," I replied evenly. "But congratulations, Sabrina. Everything looks beautiful, doesn't it?" "Daddy went all out," she said proudly, slipping her arm through Charles's. "Tyler's getting ready now. The ceremony starts in half an hour." Her gaze shifted to Marcus, curiosity sharpening. "And who's this?" After introductions, her expression shifted into something warmer. "Marcus Chin of Horizon Ventures? Oh, I've heard of your firm. Daddy has too. You must join us at the family table for dinner." Marcus gently rested a hand on my back. "Thank you, but I'll be sitting with Melanie." "Of course," Sabrina said, smile tightening. "Speaking of which, I should check in with the planner, so many last-minute changes." As she floated away, Marcus leaned toward me and whispered, "Is it just me, or did it get 20 degrees colder?" The ceremony was grand but detached, a celebrity officiant, a famous quartet, vows that sounded professionally curated. Tyler looked nervous in his tux, barely making eye contact with Sabrina during the vows. Afterward, guests made their way to a sprawling tent on the lawn. Crystal chandeliers lit up round tables draped in white linen and crowned with towering floral centerpieces. "Let's find our seats," I told Marcus, scanning for the chart. A stern-looking planner with a tablet stood near the entrance, directing people. When I gave her my name, she frowned and scrolled multiple times. "Carter," she repeated. Carter, that's odd." "Let me check another list," the planner said, her fingers flicking quickly across the tablet screen. A slow sense of dread climbed up my spine as she continued scrolling, her professional mask beginning to crack. "Here we are, Melanie Carter, +1. You're at Table O." Her expression shifted for just a moment, tightening, uneasy. "Is there a problem?" Marcus asked, his tone calm but firm. No problem. Just a moment, please." She turned abruptly and disappeared into the sea of well-dressed guests. We stood there, conspicuously alone, while waiters glided by with trays of hors d'oeuvres and laughter floated through the air like champagne bubbles. After 5 increasingly awkward minutes, she returned, this time with an older woman at her side, who introduced herself as the catering manager. "Miss Carter," the woman said softly, "there appears to have been an oversight with the seating arrangements." "I RSVP'd 2 months ago," I replied, my voice cool. "And I'm the groom's sister." The catering manager nodded, clearly uncomfortable. "Yes, of course. We understand. Unfortunately, the main reception tables are now at full capacity. We've arranged alternative seating for you and your guest." "Alternative seating?" Marcus repeated, raising an eyebrow. "If you'll follow me, please." She led us away from the glowing reception tent, down a side hallway that grew quieter with each step. Gone was the hum of conversation, the clink of glasses, the music. Eventually, she opened a service door, And there, inside the bustling kitchen, was a small round table pushed into the corner. 2 chairs. A tablecloth that looked like it had been thrown on moments ago. "You can't be serious," I said, my face burning with disbelief. "I do apologize for the inconvenience," she murmured, not meeting my eyes. The bride made some last-minute changes to accommodate important business associates. "I am a business associate," I shot back. "Langford Global just signed a $25 million deal with my company." The manager blinked in confusion. I wasn't told that. I'm just following the instructions I was given." Before I could respond, Sabrina appeared in the doorway, a flute of champagne in one hand and smug satisfaction in her eyes. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice all sugar. "Yes, there's a problem," I replied, struggling to keep my composure. "You've seated me and your husband's sister in the kitchen." Sabrina sipped her drink, unbothered. "We had to prioritize, Melanie. Daddy's partners and our closest friends needed the premium tables. I'm sure you understand." "Actually, I don't," I said coldly. "And I think Tyler would be appalled to know you placed his sister here." A flicker of something sharp passed through her expression. "Tyler approved the seating chart this morning. He knows exactly where everyone is." The words struck like a punch. My own brother had signed off on this humiliation. "This is completely unacceptable," Marcus said firmly. "We'll be joining the main reception." For a split second, Sabrina's perfect smile cracked, revealing the steel beneath. "The help eats in the kitchen," she sneered, gesturing toward our table. Dismissively, "You should feel right at home, considering your humble beginnings," Sabrina said, her tone dripping with condescension. The catering manager looked mortified and instinctively backed away from the confrontation. Around us, several kitchen staff paused their tasks, trying awkwardly not to eavesdrop, while the tension simmered in the air. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Decades of being dismissed, overlooked, and now blatantly disrespected crystallized into a razor-sharp sense of clarity. I wouldn't shout. I wouldn't throw a glass or make a scene. I wouldn't lower myself to Sabrina Langford's level. But I would no longer accept being treated as less than. "Marcus," I said quietly, turning to him with a calm I barely felt, "I need a moment alone. Would you mind waiting outside?" He gave my hand a gentle squeeze, reading the emotion in my voice. "Take all the time you need. I'll be right outside." After they left, I stood in the middle of the busy kitchen, completely invisible to my own family, yet ironically, responsible for the very contract that would boost their fortunes. A $25 million deal signed because of my work, my vision, and my company. And they couldn't even give me a seat at their table. I knew exactly what I had to do. The women's restroom just off the main hallway was thankfully empty. I locked myself inside a stall, leaned back against the door, and finally allowed the tears of humiliation to fall. I covered my mouth with my hand, unwilling to let the sound escape and alert anyone who might enter. How had I let myself believe this day would be different? That my success, so hard-fought, would finally earn me a place in the family that had never truly seen me? The pattern stretched through the years like a well-marked trail of rejection. I remembered my 16th birthday, the one my parents forgot because Tyler had a regional basketball championship. 3 days later, they showed up with a half-melted grocery store cake, gushing about Tyler's performance. Or my graduation from MIT, summa cum laude, valedictorian. My parents arrived late, missing my speech entirely because Tyler's fraternity had an alumni brunch. They brought him to my celebration dinner, where he hijacked the evening with stories from his internship. Even the day I signed the lease on my first real office, I'd called home beaming. My mother had cut me off. "We can't talk long, sweetie. We're hosting a barbecue for Tyler's promotion to vice president." A title they'd created for him. And now, on what should have been a celebration for both families, I was hidden away like an afterthought. A soft knock at the bathroom door broke the silence. "Melanie? It's Marcus. Are you okay?" I wiped my eyes and opened the door. He stood there with quiet concern etched across his face, holding 2 flutes of champagne. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering me a glass. I took it with a grateful nod and a long sip. "I'm sorry you're seeing my family like this." He looked me in the eyes. "Melanie, I'm just glad I'm here with you." Marcus leaned casually against the wall beside me, his presence calm and grounding. "Don't apologize," he said softly. "If anything, I'm getting a very enlightening look at what you've been dealing with your entire life." "And yet," I said with a faint smile, "I still came. Still hoping for, I don't even know what. Acceptance? Recognition? The most basic respect anyone deserves from their family. Those aren't unreasonable things to want, Melanie," he replied gently. I took a sip of champagne, letting his words settle. "The thing is, I don't actually need their approval anymore. I built Blue Horizon without their support. I have a brilliant team who respects me, clients who trust and value what I've created, friends who see me for who I really am." I glanced at him, my voice softening. "And I have you." "You certainly do," Marcus said with a smile that reached his eyes. "So, what do you want to do?" he asked. "We can leave right now, grab dinner somewhere cozy, maybe a late movie, pretend this whole wedding disaster never happened." Before I could answer, my clutch buzzed. I pulled out my phone and saw Monica Green's name flashing on the screen. "I should take this," I said, straightening up. "She's the operations director at Langford Global." Marcus nodded and stepped a few feet away to give me space. "Monica? Everything okay?" I asked as I answered. "All good, Melanie. I just wanted to confirm our Phase 2 implementation meeting next week and let you know the initial payment has been processed, $25 million, right on schedule." As Monica continued outlining technical updates, a wave of realization washed over me. I wasn't powerless here. I had built something real, something valuable, something even Charles Langford couldn't ignore. And while I couldn't change how my family perceived me, I could decide how I responded to their treatment. "Monica," I said, interrupting gently, "can I call you back in about 20 minutes? I'm actually at the Langford Carter wedding right now." "Oh, I didn't realize you were attending." "Of course, enjoy the celebration. We can pick this up Monday." I ended the call and turned to find Marcus watching me with quiet curiosity. "What are you thinking?" he asked, noticing the shift in my energy. "I'm thinking," I said, surprisingly calm, "that I've spent my whole life waiting for my family to acknowledge my worth, but maybe it's time I acknowledged it myself and made decisions that reflect it." "What does that mean exactly?" I smoothed my dress, checked my reflection in the mirror, and wiped away the final remnants of my tears. "It means I'm not going to hide in the kitchen like I'm ashamed of who I am. It means I'm walking back into that reception with my head high. And it means I'm making a business decision based on how I've been treated, not on family loyalty." Marcus's brows lifted slightly as understanding clicked. "The Langford contract." "Exactly. Charles Langford wants my software to elevate his company. But his daughter and my brother think I belong in the kitchen. That's not a partnership I'm interested in maintaining." "Are you sure?" he asked. "It's a $25 million deal." I took a deep breath, my expression steady as I calculated exactly what came next. This decision would have consequences for Blue Horizon Systems, of course. The Langford contract was significant, but it wasn't our only major account. We had diversified wisely over the last 2 years. Losing this deal would sting, but it wouldn't break us. And honestly, the message it would send about boundaries, self-worth, and integrity was worth far more than the money. "I've never been more sure of anything," I told Marcus, my voice steady. "I deserve better than this. Personally. Professionally. And it's time everyone understood that." Marcus smiled, slow and certain. "Then I'm with you. Whatever you decide." We walked back toward the reception together, step by step, my mind clear, my resolve unshakable. For the first time that day, I felt peace. Not because I was about to make a statement, but because I had finally chosen myself. I wasn't lashing out. I was setting boundaries. Even with family. Just outside the tent I paused. Through the opening, I saw Tyler and Sabrina working the room, stopping at table after table to shake hands and laugh with guests. They arrived at the head table where Charles Langford sat with several sharply dressed men, executives, no doubt, raising glasses and toast. "That's where I should be sitting," I said quietly. "Not because I'm Tyler's sister, but because I'm the CEO of the company that Charles Langford's team is counting on." "Then let's make sure they know exactly who they tried to seat in the kitchen," Marcus replied, offering me his arm. With my head high and my decision made, I stepped back into the reception, no longer seeking approval, but ready to command the respect I had earned. The tent buzzed with energy. A jazz band played from a stage tucked behind elegant floral arrangements. Waitstaff wove through clusters of guests offering trays of hors d'oeuvres and champagne. The chandeliers glittered above polished silverware and clinking crystal. No one seemed to notice our return. Fitting. They hadn't noticed me when they shoved me to the margins either. I scanned the room until I spotted the head table. Charles sat at its center, flanked by Tyler, Sabrina, and what looked like a lineup of corporate heavyweights. "They're discussing the merger," Marcus murmured, following my gaze. "That's Thomas Harrington from Coastal Development. If Charles brought him in, Langford's planning a major expansion." "That explains the important business associates," I said, my eyes narrowing. "He's leveraging this wedding for a power play." "Perfect timing," I added, straightening my shoulders. "Shall we?" We moved through the crowd with quiet purpose. A few unfamiliar guests stopped us to compliment the ceremony. I smiled politely, thanked them, and continued toward the head table, where Charles Langford was mid-pitch, blending charm and strategy in a voice that carried over the music. "Our plan is to pool our resources with Carter Development for the residential components, while maintaining Langford's focus on commercial properties," Charles Langford was saying as we approached the head table. "Tyler here will oversee the transition with the new software system we've implemented. We expect to increase operational efficiency by at least 20% in the first year alone." Tyler nodded eagerly, clearly pleased to be presented as a key player in such an important business discussion. Sabrina sat beside him, one hand resting possessively on his arm, her posture elegant and satisfied, like a woman who had orchestrated every detail to her liking. They didn't notice me until I was standing directly at the table. Charles was the first to see me. His expression shifted from surprise to visible discomfort. "Melanie," he said, straightening in his chair, "we were just discussing business, something about software implementation. Might be of interest to you." "Yes, I heard," I replied calmly. "You were discussing the software my company developed. The one your operations director specifically selected because it outperformed every other solution on the market." Tyler's smile faltered. He glanced between Charles and me, nervous. "Mel, maybe we can talk about this later. We're kind of in the middle of something here." "Yes, I can see that," I said, my tone clipped. "Using your wedding reception to negotiate business deals while seating your own sister in the kitchen. Very efficient." A hush fell over the immediate area. The executives seated at the table exchanged uneasy looks. "There was a misunderstanding with the seating," Sabrina interjected, her voice tight. "These things happen at large events." "Do they?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Interesting how that misunderstanding led to the CEO of a company you just paid $25 million to being placed with the catering staff, while business prospects got top-tier placement." Charles's expression darkened. "$25 million? What are you talking about, Melanie?" "Your company, Langford Global, signed a contract with Blue Horizon Systems 3 months ago," I said clearly. "I'm the founder and CEO. The software you were just praising, that's my creation." Charles looked genuinely stunned. He turned to Tyler, eyes narrowing. "You never mentioned your sister was the head of Blue Horizon." Tyler squirmed. "It didn't seem relevant at the time." "Didn't seem relevant?" I echoed. "You didn't think it mattered that your sister's company is behind the very system your father-in-law is investing millions into?" "Now isn't the time for this conversation," Sabrina hissed, her perfect smile cracking. "You're making a scene at our wedding." I calmly reached for my phone, my movements deliberate. "You're right," I said. "This isn't a conversation. It's a business decision." I dialed a number from my contacts, pressing the phone to my ear while keeping my eyes locked on Tyler's. "Gregory? It's Melanie Carter. I need you to cancel the $25 million contract with Langford Global. Effective immediately." Tyler's face turned ghostly pale. His mouth opened, then closed, as if the words had escaped him. Charles half rose from his seat, his voice already firm. Charles Langford rose from his chair, his expression a tight blend of confusion and rising anger. "Melanie, what are you doing?" he demanded. I raised one finger calmly, continuing into my phone. Yes, Gregory, I understand the implications. No, this isn't a negotiating tactic. Please have legal prepare the termination paperwork. I'll be in first thing Monday to sign everything. From the other end of the table, Sabrina's polished composure shattered completely. You can't do that, she snapped. Daddy just implemented your system across all our properties. I ended the call and slipped my phone smoothly back into my clutch. I can, and I just did. Blue Horizon Systems doesn't partner with organizations that show such poor judgment and lack of basic professional respect. This is absurd, Charles sputtered. You're canceling a multi-million-dollar contract over a seating arrangement? No, Mr. Langford, I replied evenly. I'm canceling the contract because the seating arrangement revealed something deeper, the character of this alliance. If this is how you treat a CEO when you think she's just someone's sister, I have serious concerns about how you'll treat our partnership when real challenges arise. The executives seated at the head table were now fully attentive, eyes flicking between Charles, Tyler, and me, clearly reassessing not just the contract, but the people they were in business with. Tyler, Charles said, turning to my brother, voice low and dangerous. Did you know about this? That your sister was leading the company we were working with. Tyler hesitated, his jaw twitching. I knew she had a tech company. I didn't realize it was the company. That's a lie, I said flatly. Monica Green told me she flagged our family connection to you 3 weeks ago. She said she spoke to you directly. Tyler's expression gave him away before his mouth could. Charles's face hardened. He realized he'd been misled. We need to talk. Now. Charles stood, grabbing Tyler's arm. Sabrina followed, her cheeks flushed. You're ruining everything, she hissed. This wedding cost over $2 million, and you've turned it into a business disaster. No, Sabrina. You ruined it when you decided I wasn't worthy of sitting with my own family. I remained composed, unwilling to match her outburst. I simply decided I'm not tolerating that treatment anymore. As Charles pulled Tyler away, with Sabrina trailing behind, Marcus gently rested a hand on my back. That, he murmured, was the cleanest professional takedown I've ever witnessed. For the first time all day, a genuine smile spread across my face. Let's get out of here, I said. I could go for real food. Preferably at a table I'm invited to sit at. As we turned to leave, several of the executives from the head table approached, business cards already in hand. Miss Carter, one of them said, extending his card, Thomas Harrington. I'd be very interested in learning more about what Blue Horizon Systems has to offer, said Thomas Harrington, handing me his business card. Another man stepped forward with a confident smile. Gerald Winters. Apex Investments. I've been following your company's trajectory for a while now. Perhaps we can schedule a meeting sometime next week. The very individuals Charles Langford and Tyler had been so eager to impress were now approaching me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't feel triumphant. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about putting anyone in their place. This was about finally standing up for my worth and my company's value. I accepted each card with a polite smile, nodding professionally. Thank you, Mr. Winters. My assistant will reach out to coordinate meetings next week. But for now, I'm afraid I have to leave. As Marcus and I exited the tent, the sounds of raised voices echoed from the garden path. Charles and Tyler, no doubt. The perfect wedding was falling apart, not because of anything I'd done, but because of decisions made long before I arrived. We had just reached the valet stand when my phone began buzzing over and over. I silenced it without glancing at the screen. I already knew who it was. A young valet pulled up in my black Tesla, pausing with a look of admiration as he stepped out. Nice car, he said with a grin. Thanks, I replied, handing him a generous tip. It's amazing what you can afford when you build something yourself, instead of relying on your last name. Marcus chuckled as he climbed into the passenger seat. Feeling a little petty, are we? Just a touch, I admitted, starting the engine. But I think I've earned it. Before I could shift into gear, a familiar figure caught my eye in the side mirror. My father, face flushed, tie loose, was briskly walking across the parking lot. Melanie. Stop right there, he barked, coming to a halt at my window, slightly winded. I rolled it down, but didn't turn off the car. Yes, Dad. What the hell do you think you're doing? He demanded. Charles Langford is furious. Tyler's wedding is ruined. Your mother's crying. And all because you couldn't handle a simple seating mistake. A mix-up. I repeated, incredulous. They sat me in the kitchen. Dad, the kitchen. And Sabrina made it very clear it was intentional. So what? You sit where you're told. That's basic courtesy at someone else's wedding. But no, you had to make it all about your ego. Marcus leaned forward, calm but firm. Sir, with all due respect, your daughter is the CEO of a highly respected tech firm, one Langford Global pursued for her expertise. She deserved better. My father blinked, finally taking a closer look at Marcus. And who are you to tell me how to raise my daughter? Dad, I said, voice steady, this is Marcus Chin. He's with me. And he's right. This wasn't about pride. This was about respect, something I haven't received from this family in a very long time. Respect, my father's voice rose, drawing the attention of a few nearby guests. You want to talk about respect after you just canceled a contract with your brother's future father-in-law? Do you have any idea what you've done to Tyler's standing in this family? And there it was. The truth underneath all the shouting and indignation. This wasn't about me. It wasn't even about the wedding. It was about Tyler's opportunity. About his chance to climb one more rung on a ladder that had always been extended to him, while I'd had to build my own ladder from scratch. I'm sorry if my actions impacted Tyler's business prospects, I said calmly, though I didn't feel sorry in the slightest. But I have a company to protect. And a professional reputation I intend to maintain. Langford Global doesn't get to benefit from my work while treating me like a second-class citizen. You need to fix this, my father snapped. Call them. Say it was a misunderstanding. Tell them you were emotional. Weddings are stressful. I won't, I said, firm and composed. The decision stands. And frankly, this conversation only reinforces that I made the right one. At that moment, my mother appeared behind my father. Her carefully applied makeup was now smudged around her eyes. Melanie, please, she said softly. Tyler's devastated. Can you see what you're doing to this family? What I'm doing? I repeated, letting out a dry laugh. I've spent my entire life being dismissed by this family. I built a successful tech company with zero support or encouragement from any of you. And the first time I stand up for myself, I'm the one destroying the family. That's not fair, my mother said weakly. We've always been proud of you. Really? Name one time you bragged about my achievements the way you fawn over Tyler's. One time you introduced me to someone important with even a fraction of the excitement you showed about his connection to the Langfords. Her silence was louder than any answer. Around us, a quiet audience had formed, curious guests watching the family drama unfold. Among them, I caught sight of my cousin Olivia, who had seen the kitchen incident earlier. She met my eyes and gave me a discreet thumbs up behind my parents' backs. I think we should continue this conversation later, I said, aware of the growing crowd. When emotions aren't running quite so high. There's nothing to discuss, my father replied coldly. You've made your choice. Tyler is family. Charles Langford is family now. And you just declared yourself against both of them. No, Dad, I said quietly. I declared myself worthy of respect. There's a difference. Before he could answer, another figure emerged from the house, Tyler. His face was pale, his perfect tux now disheveled. He stormed toward the car, with Sabrina and Charles Langford trailing, several steps behind. Mel, what the hell? Tyler's voice cracked. Charles is talking about pulling all his projects from Carter Development. Do you know what this could do to Dad's company? Tyler demanded, his voice rising. If Charles pulls his contracts, it could collapse years of work. I'm sorry, Tyler. That wasn't my intention, I replied, steady but unapologetic. But it's the consequence. The result, he shouted, now fully unraveling. You couldn't just sit where you were told for one day? You had to make some dramatic stand about your stupid tech company. Marcus tensed beside me, but I placed a hand on his arm, silently signaling him to stay out of it. This was mine to handle. My stupid tech company is valued at over $200 million, Tyler, I said calmly. It employs 65 people. And until about an hour ago, it was providing core infrastructure support to Langford Global. I didn't make a dramatic stand, I made a business decision based on how I was treated. Fix it, Tyler demanded. Call whoever you called. Tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, I replied, my voice unwavering. And I won't lie to protect your opportunity. At that moment, Sabrina pushed past Tyler, her once pristine wedding dress wrinkled and her hair coming loose. This is all your fault, she shrieked. You've ruined the most important day of my life because your feelings got hurt over a table. Sabrina, enough. Charles Langford's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He approached the car with slow, deliberate steps, his expression unreadable. Miss Carter, he said with a measured nod. I believe there's been a serious miscommunication today. There hasn't, I answered evenly. Your daughter made it perfectly clear where she thought I belonged. Charles glanced toward Sabrina, who looked away, flushed with embarrassment. Nevertheless, he continued, I think we should discuss this privately, as professionals. The contract between our companies is significant. Canceling it so abruptly could have wide-ranging effects for both sides. I'm aware of the consequences, I said. And my decision stands. His composed facade slipped for just a moment. You're willing to walk away from $25 million over a seating issue? I'm willing to walk away from any relationship, business or otherwise, where I'm not treated with basic respect, I replied. The money is secondary. A flicker of something, perhaps respect, flashed in Charles's eyes before he masked it again. I see. Then my legal team will reach out regarding the termination. My team will be ready to ensure a smooth transition, I said. Despite everything, I don't want your operations to suffer unnecessarily. That final exchange seemed to enrage Sabrina even more. Daddy, you can't let her do this. She's trying to destroy us because she's jealous of what Tyler and I have. Charles turned to his daughter, his voice suddenly sharp. Sabrina, you've done enough. Go back inside. We'll talk later. Sabrina stormed off, followed by my parents, who avoided meeting my eyes. Charles leaned in toward my window. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I had no idea about the seating situation. I would have intervened, Charles said quietly. Thank you for saying that, I replied. But it doesn't change my decision. He gave a single nod and straightened. I understand. And while I disagree with your choice from a business standpoint, I can't say I don't admire your principles. He extended his hand. Good day, Miss Carter. I shook his hand briefly before shifting the car into drive. Tyler remained standing in the driveway, his face caught between disbelief and anger as we pulled away. That was intense, Marcus said once we'd turned onto the main road. Are you okay? I exhaled slowly, the tightness in my chest finally starting to release. Honestly, I feel better than I have in years. Like I finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't even realize was on my shoulders. The weight of trying to earn their approval? Marcus suggested. Exactly. I glanced in the rearview mirror, watching the Langford estate shrink behind us. I spent so long trying to prove my worth to people who were never going to see it. Today, I saw it for myself. So what now? Marcus asked, grinning. Besides finding a restaurant with great food and proper seating? I really laughed for the first time in days. It caught me off guard with how light it felt. Now we rebuild. Blue Horizon will be just fine without the Langford contract. We've got other clients, new opportunities, and I've got something I never really had before. What's that? Self-respect, I said simply. And it turns out that's worth more than $25 million. The first email arrived at 6:43 a.m. Monday morning. By the time I walked into Blue Horizon's office at 8 o'clock, my inbox held 17 messages from Langford global executives, ranging from apologetic to borderline frantic. Monica Green had sent 3, each one more urgent than the last. Good morning, Sarah, I said, passing my assistant's desk. I assume you've seen the inbox situation? Sarah nodded, her expression serious. It's been going nonstop since 7 a.m. Monica Green's called twice. She sounds rattled. And Mr. Langford himself phoned 5 minutes ago asking when you'd be available to speak. Schedule a call with Monica for 10 o'clock. As for Charles Langford, let him know I'm in meetings today, but can speak with him tomorrow afternoon. Sarah raised her eyebrows. He seemed to think it was urgent. I'm sure he did, I replied calmly. But I need time to prep our transition strategy with the team. I had just settled behind my desk when Gregory Phillips, our chief operating officer, appeared at my office door, arms crossed. "So," he said, leaning against the frame, "want to tell me what happened at your brother's wedding? That resulted in you canceling our biggest contract to date?" Gregory asked, his brow arched. I gestured for him to close the door and take a seat across from me. "It's a long story, but the short version is this. Langford Global, or more accurately, the Langford family, made it very clear they don't respect me or this company. I decided we shouldn't be doing business with people who don't value us." Gregory let out a low whistle. "Must have been some wedding." "You have no idea," I said, then briefly recounted the kitchen seating incident, the confrontation with Tyler and Sabrina, and the ultimate contract termination. When I finished, Gregory sat in thoughtful silence. "I'd like to say I'm shocked," he finally said, "but after everything you've shared about your family dynamic over the years, it tracks. The question now is how we move forward," I said, shifting focus. The Langford contract represented about 22% of our projected revenue this year. "We need to offset that." "Already on it," Gregory replied. "Westfield Partners, the demo we gave them last month? They've been hesitant to commit, but I think with a small incentive, we can close the deal. It wouldn't replace Langford completely, but it'd soften the blow." "Do it," I said. "And let's accelerate the European rollout. Without Langford tying up our bandwidth, we can redirect resources to the expansion. The interest from Berlin and Oslo is growing." Before Gregory could respond, Sarah's voice came through the intercom. "Melanie, Thomas Harrington from Coastal Development is on line 1. He says it's regarding a potential contract." Gregory and I exchanged a surprised look. "Harrington? From the wedding? Want me to give you the room?" Gregory offered, half rising from his chair. "No, stay. I want your input on this." I pressed the speaker button. "Mr. Harrington, this is Melanie Carter." "Ms. Carter, thank you for taking my call. I hope I'm not interrupting your morning." "Not at all. What can I do for you?" "Well, after our brief conversation at the Langford Carter wedding, I took the liberty of researching Blue Horizon. I'm impressed with what you've built. I believe Coastal Development could benefit from your supply chain system." I kept my tone even. "Thank you, Mr. Harrington. We'd be happy to schedule a demonstration at your convenience." "Excellent. And one more thing. I understand your relationship with Langford Global may be concluding. Coastal Development had been considering a joint venture with them. But after witnessing Saturday's events, I'm reconsidering if they're the right cultural fit for us." Gregory's eyes widened. I had to suppress a smile. "I see," I said. "While I can't speak to Langford's internal culture, I can assure you that at Blue Horizon, we value respect, integrity, and professionalism in every partnership." "That much was clear," he replied. "Especially in how you handled a difficult situation with remarkable composure." "I'll have my assistant coordinate with yours to schedule the demonstration," I said. "Looking forward to it, Ms. Carter," Thomas Harrington replied before ending the call. Gregory let out another low whistle from across the desk. "Well, that was unexpected. What exactly happened at this wedding?" he asked, half joking. "Let's just say it made an impression on more than a few people," I replied, still processing what this new opportunity could mean. "We'll need to bring our A-game for Coastal," Gregory said, already shifting into strategy mode. "Their property portfolio is even bigger than Langford's." "Then let's prepare accordingly," I said. This could be a turning point. By lunchtime, word of the Langford contract cancellation had quietly spread through the company. I hadn't shared the personal details, but the senior leadership understood that something major had occurred. To their credit, no one questioned my decision. Instead, they focused on problem-solving, identifying opportunities, and moving forward. My 10 a.m. call with Monica Green had been tough but respectful. She was understandably frustrated about losing a system her team had spent months implementing, but her frustration was directed more at the situation than at me. For what it's worth, she had said near the end of our call, "I didn't know about the seating incident until Charles told me this morning. It was completely unprofessional." "I'm sorry it happened." "I appreciate that, Monica," I had replied. "And I want to be clear, this isn't a reflection on your work. You and your team were outstanding throughout the implementation." "Is there any way to salvage this?" she asked. "New terms? A clean slate?" I don't think so, I admitted gently. Some lines, once crossed, stay crossed. But we'll do everything we can to support a smooth handoff. I'll personally ensure your transition team gets everything they need. At 3 p.m., my personal cell rang with a number I didn't recognize. I nearly let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Melanie Carter speaking. Melanie, it's Diana Carter. Your aunt, your father's sister. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Aunt Diana had been estranged from the family for nearly 2 decades, following a falling out with my father, one we were never given details about as children. Aunt Diana? I asked, stunned. How did you get my number? I have my ways, she said, a touch of amusement in her voice. I've been following your journey from afar. Your success with Blue Horizon doesn't surprise me. You were always the sharp one. Thank you, I said cautiously. But why are you calling now? Because I heard what happened at Tyler's wedding, she said. Word travels quickly in certain circles. The Langfords are nothing if not connected. Oh, I said, unsure where this was going. And you're calling too. To tell you I'm proud of you, she said, her voice strong. Standing up to the Carter family's long tradition of favoring the golden son over the capable daughter? It's about time someone broke the cycle. What do you mean? I asked, surprised by Aunt Diana's intensity. She sighed, a sound heavy with time and old wounds. Melanie, why do you think I haven't spoken to your father in 20 years? It's the same story, just a different generation. I built a successful interior design firm in the 80s, when women in construction weren't exactly welcomed. Your grandfather and your father decided my business was a cute hobby and handed the entire Carter Development Company to your dad. Even though I worked every summer, every school holiday, in the office and on site since I was 16. The parallels struck me immediately, sharp and undeniable. I had no idea, I admitted quietly. Dad never explained why you disappeared from our lives. Of course he didn't, Diana replied, not bitter, just resolute. It didn't fit the narrative. But what you did, standing up for yourself and walking away from Langford, even when it was costly, means something. It breaks a pattern. One that's been in this family for far too long. We spoke for nearly an hour. She filled in gaps in our family history I never knew existed. Her story of building a business without support, forging a name on her own, resonated deeply. By the time we ended the call, we had plans to meet for dinner the following week. A reconnection that felt both surprising and somehow inevitable. The rest of the afternoon brought more unexpected turns. Gerald Winters from Apex Investments called not only to discuss a contract for their supply chain upgrades, but to initiate a conversation about Apex making a strategic investment in Blue Horizon's international expansion. Your handling of the Langford situation, he said, was exactly the kind of principled leadership we look for. Sometimes, walking away from the wrong partnership is more valuable than securing a new one. By 5 p.m., I had instructed our legal team to finalize the Langford termination paperwork while simultaneously exploring 3 new potential clients, all from contacts I'd made at the wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me. As I gathered my things to leave the office, my phone buzzed with a text from Tyler, the first contact since everything unraveled. Need to talk. Just you and me. Tomorrow lunch. I stared at the message for a long moment. Despite everything, he was still my brother. I wasn't seeking reconciliation, but I was open to hearing him out. Okay. 1 p.m. Luciano's on 5th. Just us. His reply came almost instantly. Thank you. Driving home, I reflected on how differently the day had unfolded. What should have been about damage control and loss was instead filled with renewed momentum and potential growth. By valuing myself, I had opened the door for others to value Blue Horizon more. Marcus called as I was stirring dinner. So, he said, playful, has Langford Global imploded without your software yet? Not yet, I laughed. But Monica Green sounded close to panic this morning. But it was a start, an acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, they'd failed to see me clearly for a very long time. The most profound changes, however, hadn't occurred within my family. They'd taken root within me. That painful, humiliating wedding incident, being seated in the kitchen, overlooked, underestimated, had become the final push I needed to free myself from the exhausting loop of trying to win approval from people determined never to give it. I no longer compared my success to Owen's accomplishments or measured my worth through the narrow lens of my parents' limited perspective. That mental freedom rippled into every area of my life. At Nexus Technologies, I started making decisions with boldness and clarity, no longer haunted by second-guessing or the quiet need to prove something to anyone but myself. And in my personal life, my relationship with Marcus grew deeper, more grounded. Without the constant emotional juggling act I used to perform with my family, I was able to bring a fuller, more authentic version of myself to our partnership. He saw me, truly, and he never needed convincing. Perhaps most significantly, I launched a mentorship program called Visible, a space for women entrepreneurs in tech, especially those navigating complex family expectations, cultural bias, or societal dismissal. We met weekly, the first cohort of 20 women. Their stories were echoes of my own, women told to be realistic, discouraged from leadership, or expected to defer to a brother, husband, or father. Helping them reclaim their voice was helping me reclaim more of mine. You know what still amazes me? I said one night as Marcus, and I watched the lights of Chicago shimmer across Lake Michigan. How one moment of standing up for myself created this entire ripple effect. That's how change happens, he said, wrapping his arm around my shoulder. Not with fire and speeches, just one person saying enough and meaning it. As dusk faded into night, I thought of all the patterns I had broken. Generational ones, corporate ones, internal ones. Then my phone buzzed with a new text from Owen. Dad wants to have dinner next week. Just the family. Says he has something important to discuss. Will you come? I showed the screen to Marcus. What do you think? He didn't hesitate. I think you've earned the right to set the terms now. If you want to go, go. If you don't, don't. Either way, you're not doing it out of guilt. You're doing it from strength. I typed slowly. I'll come. But I'm bringing Marcus. He's important to me, and I want him there. Owen's reply came quickly. Of course. Mom and Dad will be glad to meet him properly. It wasn't perfect. Decades of family dynamics don't unravel in a few weeks. The Langford contract was still officially terminated. Owen and Julia were still sorting out the cracks in their marriage. But for the first time, I was showing up without trying to fix everything or shrink myself to fit anyone's comfort zone. In the end, the story of the wedding seating chart and the canceled contract wasn't really about either of those things. It was about learning this. My worth is not determined by where others place me. It's determined by where I choose to stand. And now I ask you, have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't see your worth? Walked away from a situation where you were undervalued? Tell me in the comments below. Sometimes, the hardest boundaries to set are with the people closest to us. But those boundaries? They're often the most transformational. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life reflections on reclaiming power, setting boundaries, and honoring your own voice. And remember, you deserve a seat at the table. And if they don't offer it, you have every right to walk away.